Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today and to share this work with all of you. You should be able to see the slide now. Okay. So, I would like to begin with a simple question, one question that I believe sits at the heart of the contemporary educational debate. So, we're talking about digital literacy. Um, and when we talk about digital education in schools, what are we actually trying to form? Are we trying to produce competent users of digital tools, or are we trying to form ethical and um critical citizens who are capable of navigating and questioning the digital environments in which they live? Well, the difference is very important, and that's exactly what are we going to explore through what I call the ethical social curriculum, which is a pedagogical proposal that moves beyond technical digital literacy towards something deeper, more demanding, and I would argue more necessary. So let's start with the context. We are living um, in through what has been considered as the fourth revolution, the information revolution, which is transforming the environment where human beings will speak and relate to one another. And in some clarity, an important Italian intellectual of digital literacy described the contemporary individuals as an import means an individual organism partially disconnected from direct bodily experience and immersed in the networks of data for connections and digital representations. So these digital immersions become a kind of infosphere that has had a profound impact for our identity, for social bonds, and above all for education. So digital platforms, especially social media, seems to give people a lot of freedom to express themselves. However, underneath this, the social media actually push people to communicate, to behave, and present themselves in similar ways, in a more standardized way, a kind of modernization. So that produce subject to the logic of the immediate feedback. And this for young people, for teenagers, can lead to a constant cycle of social pressure, anxiety about how they will be seen, and sharing a kind of perfect version of their lives. So this cycle can make it harder for people uh, to understand, to express their emotion, or maybe uh, it can reduce their ability to recognize and respect people who are different from them. And despite that, the first revolution is not in itself a negative phenomenon, of course. It brings extraordinary potential for access to knowledge and for global communication. And social media are widely used by people as a way to access or follow or share news about what is happening in the world. So the pedagogical problem is not to resist technological change, but we should investigate whether our educational institutions are equipped enough to um, help individuals navigate into the infosphere critically. And if they can distinguish its emancipatory possibilities from the tendency toward control or cultural homogenization. So this is the question that I drive my proposal. And so now we will try to understand how schools can contribute to digital literacy whether through specific courses, workshops, or through an integrated approach. And firstly, I was wondering about the intentional role of the education, the formation of the whole person capable of critical thinking, building meaningful experiences that aim at an intellectual and moral growth of the persons. So, following this vision, when we talk about ethical awareness, social responsibility, critical thinking, and reflective practices, we should be aware that these dimensions are not isolated content areas, but they are transversal, formative orientations that invest the whole organization of the school. So we can recall the concept of habitus that was coined by Pierre Bourdieu. Habitus are dispositions that are acquired implicitly and that settle with the individual through a prolonged exposure to the same practices, to the same structures of meaning. And these dispositions cannot be transmitted through an explicit declaration. So we cannot teach ethical awareness the way we teach grammar. We cannot teach social responsibility the way we teach grammar. So these habits, these dispositions, are formed through their overall quality of the educational experience over time. And from this, we can assume that we need to move forward. Um, we need to move towards a curriculum that fosters a certain kind of autonomy. Autonomy seen as reflective self-determination, so the ability to guide one's action according to consciously chosen and critical grounded principles, educative principles. And for teachers, this means practice rooted in awareness rather than compliance. For students, this autonomy is something that must be um, constructed progressively through the educational relationship. So the autonomy promoted by school is the one that should allow students to become critical citizens capable of making informed choices, but this autonomy should be considered different from the autonomy which is offered by the digital world. In fact, social media platforms offers users a sensation uh, of making free choice. So they feel like what they can they are aware of what to publish, who to follow, or how to express themselves, but they sometimes are not conscious about this freedom because this freedom is often often canalized through algorithmic structures that the user don't know, they do not choose and cannot control. So the subject acts convinced of expressing themselves while in reality they just respond to the external logics that exist and sometimes they shape people too. So the ethical social curriculum should help us to make this hidden heteronomy visible and should help us for creating the conditions through which the subject can begin to move through the digital environment more critical way. So, uh, in the digital context, educational reason um, translate into the ability to refuse this passive acceptance of the cultural and communicative models offered by social media. We want to interrogate them and to question and maybe imagine alternatives. And but what does all this mean concretely for the school? So the reflection will operate on two closely connected levels. the revision of the curriculum, and the transformation of the pedagogical practices. Firstly, on the curricular level, we should shift from the technical digital literacy to a critical digital literacy that requires a revision of formative objectives that goes beyond the mastery of tools and communicative codes. And we want to invest in the formation of the ethical sensibility and the relational capacity. So the school is called not to ignore the digital revolution, but to make it visible, to analyze it, and to resist it critically. Whereas on the level of practice, the proposal draws on the tradition of critical pedagogy. So curricular choice, so every pedagogical practice implies a positioning with respect to the power structures and the organization of the society. So an ethical social curriculum in the digital area should include critical analysis of the profilization, of the algorithms, and the mechanism of the social feedback dependency. Should promote discussion of the cultural representations and identity models promoted by the digital platforms. So this for against the process of depersonalization. And so teachers are called to act as a critical intellectuals that should work on two curricular levels. The first level is the explicit curriculum, so when there are the declared objectives or formalized content and the soft skills that are listed in the official program documents. The first level is readable in the structure of the school programs. And teachers should work on the second level, so at the same time on the second level, which is more implicit and is not separate from the first level or from the program, but is a way of educating that the influences students through the overall learning experience. So its results are not immediate and they are difficult to, to measure. Instead, students develop over time as lasting change in how they can think, feel, and understand values through a deeper learning process. And now I would like to introduce an Italian initiative which is called Work and Heart, um, an Italian project that has produced the manifest of respectful communication. So it includes a range of rules to reduce the negative language online. And it was born in 2017 and has involved many teachers and many training events. They provide free teaching materials and digital educational programs for students, for families, and for educators. Well, so I tried to analyze the project using the two-level framework. And the project Working Hard mainly works at the first level. It seems that works at the first level because it defines principles, it creates structured materials and set clear objectives. So its impact in term it's quite evident. However, the second level raises a deeper question. So um, I wonder, I ask to myself, does the project also influence students at a deeper level? So, do these principles become part of how students truly think and behave, or do they remain just simple rules that students know, but they do not fully apply? Um, so, from a critical pedagogy perspective, there is another limitation. The project focuses mainly on the individual behavior, so how each person communicates. It does not fully question the role of digital platforms and algorithms, so which are often the algorithms that often encourage and spread these not respectful communication. In this way, the problem is seen as individual rather than social or structure. Um, so this does not mean that the project is not valuable. Instead, this shows why the two-level framework is very, very important because it helps us understand what even strong and well-known initiatives still do not fully achieve um, or when further educational work is needed. And so let me close by um, coming back to the main point of the research. Um, so I believe the ethical social curriculum proposed is not just one option among many, but an essential way to think about digital education today. And these initiatives are educative activities like, for example, words and heart are truly important. And as we think these principles of the manifest, like for example, think before you post, or remember that behind every screen there is a person, are meaningful, are worth sharing, but they can be included in everyday school lessons by any teacher, by any subjects, or at any level. So that's exactly what makes them useful as communication tool. But here's the main question, the main point I want to say. So the ethical social curriculum is not another program to add to a full timetable. It's not a set of rules to put on the classroom walls, um, but it works at a deeper level, at the level of habits, so ways of thinking and slow, careful development of the whole person. So it's a second level curriculum and not what we teach directly, but what students learn through the quality of the experience that we give to them day after day, year after year. And that's why school matters in a way that no digital platforms, no the government guidelines and manifesto can't replace. So school should not be considered just as an institution, but as a deliberately educational place. And it's where young people meet each other, where they experience otherness for the first time outside their family environment. So, uh, where they learn what it means to live together. And school is where the lessons are challenged, reinforced with the real relationship with peers, with teachers. And so um, that's why we should offer um, a teaching approach that goes deeper and that takes seriously the full potential of the of educational role. So I would like to thank you all for your time and enjoy the rest of the conferences. Thank you. Thank you.